So I'm Michael Klein. I work at a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. It's called Klein Partners, and we have offices in Silicon Valley and also around the world, in India, Israel, New York, Connecticut, and we invest in early stage technology companies. So companies that are in Sector 5. Yeah, so with us, we look to do a couple things. One, provide capital, obviously, which is important because businesses need capital to grow, to fund their development. But the other thing we look to do is provide advice and support, mentorship, expertise when it comes to M&A, other financing, relationships, etc. But we don't bundle them. So there's we have everything from early stage startups that are before the Series A level that we've seed invested in. Everything up to large companies and $300 million in revenue. We don't bundle them up in one place, but we, depending on where they are in their life cycle, we work with them to find an appropriate space. So, yeah, so we are here with the Plug and Play Tech Center, which has a partnership with the Austria Chamber of Commerce, and so we're over here working with Plug and Play. As sponsorship with Silicon Valley, and we were looking at a number, I think 40 in total, startups in Austria. We went to Linz one day, we're in Vienna several days, and so the purpose of our trip is to meet with startups and to pick a handful of them to come back to Silicon Valley, exchange ideas there, and hopefully develop and grow as a function of their trip to Silicon Valley. I think it's not so much of a magic button. I mean, it's not something you go there and somebody sprinkles fairy dust on your head. I think it's really more of an ecosystem. And ecosystems, it's a good question. I mean, how an ecosystem is developed over time. So I think with Silicon Valley, it happened over a number of years. So as early as the 30s and 40s, the defense industry was doing research there and funding projects. And then in the 70s, with Apple, there was in Intel, there was the microprocessor and the personal computer. And then with the internet, the adoption of Google, et cetera. These things happen over a period of time, right? So the venture capitalists look to pools of talent to invest in, so entrepreneurs that have expertise in computer science and engineering to invest in. Those engineers rely on other like-minded individuals that are in startups to bounce ideas off of, to co-found companies with. Those companies that are created sell products to businesses in Silicon Valley, which then are acquired by other companies that came before them. So it's something that happens over a long period of time, and there's a lot of investment that needs to go into it, but it's an ecosystem at the end of the day.
Okay.
No, there are a lot of co-working spaces in Silicon Valley and in New York. I think it's important to build that, on a micro level, that ecosystem, so that startups have camaraderie, they have support, they have a place to exchange ideas, they have a place to just kind of be counseled from one another. There's a number of different co-working spaces, incubators, accelerators, Plug and Play being one of those that are present in Silicon Valley. So I think it's one of the things that are driving the startup ecosystem, which is important for its success. We looked at a number of startups, and a lot of them had very good businesses, but some of them weren't in touch with kind of the innovation that was going on in other places in the world. And I think that it's important in the technology industry to innovate very quickly. And so if you're with other people that are doing similar things, maybe you can learn from their mistakes. So I've been quite impressed with the companies that we've seen at Sector 5, as well as the merger across the street. The companies here, even though you're in Austria, you're very much in touch with what's going on in the technology industry around the world, Silicon Valley, London, et cetera. I saw a number of differences between Austrian entrepreneurship and American entrepreneurship. And I think the biggest one is that there's not capital to be invested in businesses. And so what happens is that Austrian companies oftentimes have to be profitable from day one. They don't take risk. They develop their projects in universities and then try to spin them out later, which really constricts the entrepreneur's ability to dream really big and go after really large opportunities because they simply don't have the capital to do so. And I think there's certainly an opportunity for really talented engineers and technical talent here in Austria to be coupled with co-working spaces, to exchange ideas, and then hopefully get funded to take, to allow for bigger ideas to come to fruition.
Or something like this?
I don't know. You should. I'm not quite grown up yet, so you should ask me in a couple of years. But when I was young, I remember being really into baseball cards because there were a lot of numbers involved with baseball cards, and I would check the valuations of different players and would be very obsessive about who the best players are and why I like those and what the valuations were for those cards. So much that I then created a little business in my neighborhood where I would sell those baseball cards to my neighbors. So I like to think that I have a great company in me waiting to be created. And my mom's also an entrepreneur. So hopefully in 5 years we can have this interview and I can tell you that I've started a really cool company that does something to change the world.